Hi guys, Colesy, and today I'm going to be recommending you some PCs that meet the specs, the minimum, the recommended, the enthusiast, and ultra specs of the new Star Wars Outlaws game, which I'm very excited to be releasing very soon. I love me some Star Wars, and so if you're watching this video and you're looking for a PC recommendation to meet the spec so that you can play Star Wars Outlaws on your PC, then this is the right video for you. I have handpicked a bunch of PCs both for the UK and the US. Star Wars Outlaws and Ubisoft have been kind enough to give us 4 different sections of specs. We have, like I said, minimum, recommended, enthusiast, and ultra. So I have PC recommendations for all of those on Amazon. All the links will be in the description if you want to check them out. If there is something specific that you're looking for or a budget that you're working to, then please do let me know in the comments. I do my best to reply to every single comment that I get, so I'm happy to help you guys out. We're going to start off with the lowest setting, which is the minimum requirements that Star Wars Outlaws requires. So this is for visual settings. This will do 1080p, 30 FPS, low preset with upscaler set to quality. Until I get in the game, I don't exactly know what the upscaler is, but that's the visual settings that you're going to be looking at with these PCs. So GPU-wise, it says it needs a GTX 1660 6GB or an AMD RX 5600 XT 6GB or an Intel Arc A750 8GB with rebar on. CPU, we're looking at the Intel Core i7 8700K or an AMD Ryzen 5 3600. In terms of RAM, this is the same for every single one of these specs. We're looking for 16GB of dual channel. Operating system, again, the same for every single one of these. Windows 10 or 11 with DirectX 12. And again, storage is the same for every single spec, 65GB of SSD. So the main things we're going to be looking at is GPU and CPU. RAM is always going to be at least 16GB, so I've sorted that out, so that's not even something to worry about. It doesn't change between the specs. These PCs will be at least the level that they're looking for here for each of the specs, or higher. So I have looked for an equivalent, if not better, in these PC specs. I've been rambling on long enough, so let's look at some PCs, shall we? So we're going to start here with the UK. We're going to do the UK and then the US. I have 2 PCs for each. We're going to do UK, US for each of the specs, and then we'll move on to the next spec. First up, we have our first PC here, which is it's just called Gaming PC. It has an AMD Ryzen 5 5500, an RTX 3050 6GB, 16GB of RAM, 500GB SSD, Windows 11. This is from the Ions store. Haven't heard of these guys before, but they do have good reviews here on Amazon, so I'm happy to recommend them. And this is a really reasonable price for this. So this PC is £490. Now, you'll notice that the specs do not match the specs I mentioned because these specs are more up-to-date, more modern. A 3050 6GB is going to perform better than a 1660 6GB, and the Ryzen 5 5500 is an upgrade on the Ryzen 5 3600 that it's asking for. It meets and exceeds the spec that we're looking at. So we're going to move on to PC number 2. Very simple. This one, we have the ADMI, or ADMI, as I like to call them. I don't think they like me calling them that, but I call them ADMI. This has a Ryzen 5 5500, RTX 3050, 6GB again, 16GB of RAM, terabyte NVMe SSD, so it has a little bit more storage on this one than the last one. But other than that, the CPU and the GPU are exactly the same. So this is £499.95, so £500 for this PC. Again, we're exceeding the spec that we are looking for here for the minimum on Star Wars Outlaws, and we have just a little bit of extra SSD space on this one with the terabyte SSD, so it's just more storage, which is more good. We only need 65GB, so even the 500GB SSD will be perfectly fine for being able to run and store Star Wars Outlaws. So now we're going to move on to the US PCs for the minimum spec requirements. So we're starting off here with the Cost Plus Gaming Starter Tier Gaming PC. Ryzen 5 3600, which is exactly the CPU it says we need, an RTX 3050, a 500GB SSD, 16GB of RAM, etc. Now, this is $549.99, so $550 near as damn it. In terms of what we're getting here, the GPU is more than we need. The CPU is exactly what we need. We're getting 16GB of RAM. We have enough storage. It's perfectly fine for this minimum spec that we're looking at. Ignore the fact that it says item cannot be delivered. That's just because I'm in the UK and I haven't changed it to tell it I'm in the US, or pretend that I'm in the US. So there we go. $550 for your first PC. I think this looks like a really nice little small compact PC. Again, I haven't heard of this brand, but from looking at some of their other stuff, this looks like a pretty cool, reliable brand. That's the first PC we have here for the US. We'll move on now to the second PC. We have the Acer Nitro 50, Intel Core i5 14400F, RTX 3050, 15 gig of DDR5, and terabyte PCIe Gen 4 SSD. So this one is a bit of a step up in terms of cost. This is $699.99. So this is a $700 PC at this point. Again, we're with the 3050. Does it specify? Because I know the 3050... this is an 8 gig 3050. That's what I was getting at. The 3050 comes in a 6 gig version and an 8 gig version. So this is the 8 gig version. So it's a little bit better than the 6 gig version of the 3050. Again, we're getting a much more modern CPU with the i5-14400F. It's a 10-core processor. We're moving from DDR4 to DDR5, which is nice in terms of extra future-proofness. Obviously, as we develop in time, we're going to move up the scale of RAM. So DDR4 is kind of the minimum you get now. DDR3 is a bit old, and DDR5 is the newer one. So that's more future-proof if you want to think of it like that. But either way, these are going to run. It doesn't specify DDR4 or DDR5 or any of that stuff in the specs, so DDR4 will be perfectly good enough. I wanted to bring this because the last PC that I recommended was a bit of an unknown brand, and if you are still a little bit nervous about that, here we have a known brand, Acer. I do recommend all these on Amazon just purely because the refund process, or if there are any issues, the process on Amazon is a lot easier than if I recommended you different stores, because they're each going to have their own process of doing things, and I can't necessarily know how each of those are going to deal with their customer service, etc. But using Amazon just makes it very simple. So yeah, now we move on to the recommended spec for Star Wars Outlaws. So this one, it's looking for an RTX 3060 Ti 8 gig or an AMD RX 6700 XT 12 gig, an Intel Core i5-10400 or an AMD Ryzen 5 5600X. And this is looking at 1080p 60 FPS with the high preset with upscaler set to quality. So back to the UK, we have this ADMI ADMI gaming PC, i5-12400F, RTX 4060, 16 gig of RAM, terabyte SSD. So again, we're not quite matching the spec because again, the 4060 is a lot newer card. A lot more people are selling the 4060 in a PC than they are selling the older 3060 Ti, but this is more than good enough to do that. And again, we are looking at a slightly newer i5-12400F rather than the 10400 that it's looking for. So again, we're outperforming that on what it needs. £669.95, so £670. And again, it's a brand that I have recommended a lot. I trust to give you a good experience, give you a good PC for your money. But yes, this more than meets the recommended spec that you're looking for if you're looking at 1080p 60 FPS with the high presets. On to our next PC. So again, we're with the Ions. Again, like I said, not a brand that has popped up previously in my recommendation videos, but it has popped up this time. So this is the Ions gaming PC with a Ryzen 5 5600X, RTX 4060, 16 gig of RAM, terabyte SSD. This one has a little bit of liquid cooling. If that's what you fancy, that's what you fancy. So this one is £779.95, £780. Again, very similar to the last one. We're looking at the 4060 rather than the 3060 Ti that it's asking for recommended. So we're more than meeting that spec. And this one, we've gone with the Ryzen 5 5600X, which is exactly the CPU that it's looking for. So £708. We have another option here. I really like the look of this case. It's a super cool looking case and PC in general. So I mean, if the visuals take your fancy, then I think this looks really nice. I'm more looking at performance here. Will it run it? Make sure it runs it. That's what I'm looking for. The visuals is just a bonus. Onto the US options for the recommended spec. Starting up here, we have the Skytech Shiva gaming PC, Ryzen 5 5600X, 3060 Ti, 1TB SSD, 16 gig of DDR4. So again, this is actually a PC that meets the exact spec we're looking for. It has the 5600X, the Ryzen 5 5600X CPU. It has the RTX 3060 Ti that we're looking for. It has the RAM that we need, has the storage, etc. This is $799.99, so $800. At the time of recording, there is only one left in stock, so I mean, get on it quick if this is the specific PC that you're looking for. Again, the case is kind of a different looking case. I kind of like it. It seems to have the power supply mounted in the top, so I don't know if that's something you fancy or you particularly fancy a white case. This one might be for you. Our second choice for the US for the recommended spec is the Skytech Gaming Nebula. This has an i5-13400F. And RTX 4060, terabyte SSD, 16 gig of DDR4 RAM. This one is $849.99. So again, we're looking around $850 for this one. Again, ignore the shipping. The shipping is for the UK. If you're in the UK, probably don't buy a PC from the US, buy one of the UK PCs that I've recommended. But again, Skytech is a brand I've recommended a bunch of times on these recommendation videos, and this PC more than meets the spec. It's $50 more than the last one. I would probably recommend this over the last one just because it's a little bit more modern. It has the 4060 rather than the 3060 Ti, so it's a little bit more modern. It's a little bit more beyond what it's looking for in the recommended spec. So if you can afford the $50 extra, then this probably is a better option for you. Just have a look here. I've noticed that they have a 5700 with the 4060. Okay, this is a little bit of a different option. You could go a little bit more expensive and get the Ryzen 7, but I mean, to meet the spec for the cheapest price possible, we're looking at the 1300F Intel i5 for $850. That's my recommendation there for the US. Now onto the Enthusiast level that Star Wars Outlaws has given us. So the Enthusiast level is looking at 1440p, 60 FPS, high quality, high preset with the upscaler set to quality. So this is 1440p, 60 FPS we're looking at here. So it's asking for an RTX 4070 or an AMD RX 6800 XT, Intel Core i5 11600K, or an Ryzen 7 5800X. With those in mind, we're going to start with the UK PCs again. These are the UK PCs I'm recommending for the Enthusiast level for Star Wars Outlaws. If you're looking at 1440p 60 FPS gaming. We're starting off here with the ADME gaming PC, Intel i5 13400F, RTX 4070, 32 gig of RAM, terabyte SSD. So this one is £1,069, nice, 95, £1,070 rounded. Again, we are matching, I believe, the spec. Oh no, we're exceeding the spec on the CPU with a bit of a newer CPU with the 13400F. Rather than the 11th gen that it's looking for. We do have the 4070, which is exactly what it's looking for. You do get double the RAM that you need on this one, which is nice. It's just kind of a bonus. When you get to these higher end PCs, you tend to see that they are adding extra RAM in there for you. So this is 32 gig. It says on the spec we only need 16, but we're going to get 32. I'll take an extra 16 for free. But yeah, this is £1,070. Again, a good looking PC, a good performing PC by the specs, and more than you need really to run the Enthusiast level, or at least meet and slightly exceed the Enthusiast level for Star Wars Outlaws. Next up, we have the Vibox 3 105 gaming PC. It has the i7 11700, RTX 4070, 32 gig of RAM, terabyte SSD. So again, we're in the 11th gen with this CPU, which is the 11th gen that it's looking for, but we are an i7 rather than the i5. So we're slightly up on performance in terms of the CPU. And again, we're matching the GPU that it's asking for with the 4070. And again, we're up to 32 gig of RAM. Like I said, it tends to sort of ramp up that way, that you're going to have more RAM for a more higher performing PC like this. So again, a good choice here. This is £1,200, 1,199.95. So this is a little bit more expensive than the previous one. But again, it's a good option either way, whichever you decide, whether you like the aesthetics of this one particularly. I'm just giving you guys the option here. Now moving on to the US PCs for the Enthusiast level. We're starting off here with the Yayan Gaming Tanto Gaming PC. This has the i5 13400F, RTX 4070, terabyte SSD, 16 gig of DDR5. So we are 16 gig on this one, but we are DDR5 RAM. The last couple would have been DDR4, even though they have 32 gig. This is 16 gig of DDR5. So still, anyway, meets the spec that we're looking for. We're slightly newer on the CPU again with the 13th gen i5 rather than the 11th that it's looking for. And we're matching with the RTX 4070 and terabyte SSD, plenty of space. So this is £1,229, £1,230 rounded roughly. Again, Yayan has come up before previously in a couple of my recommendations as a PC company that has good reviews and something I'm happy to recommend. So I don't think they've come up too often, but in this case, they seem to have a really good deal on this PC that meets the Enthusiast spec for Star Wars Outlaws. So good option here. On to our next US Enthusiast level PC. So we're gone with the MSI here. So this is a renewed PC. I believe this is the only renewed PC I have on the list. This is the MSI Aegis. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it has the i7 13700F, 32 gig of DDR5, terabyte SSD, 2 terabyte hard drive, and a 4070. Now, the reason I'm recommending this, it is renewed rather than new. I don't think that makes much difference. Again, like I said, Amazon renewed. You've got a good system of dealing with any issues that pop up. you've got a good return policy, etc. if there are any issues. But buying something like this, you're getting a lot for your money. You're getting 32 gig of DDR5, which is really, really nice. You're getting the i7-13700F, which again is not an i5, it's the step up, it's the i7, and it's 2 generations newer than what we're looking for. Get the RTX 4070 that we're looking for, getting a terabyte M.2 SSD, which again, we need storage, SSD storage for the game, but you're also getting a 2 terabyte hard drive with that, so plenty of storage for other games that don't require an SSD, or just bulk storage for videos, pictures, whatever you want to store on your computer. It's a well-known brand, MSI, so again, I feel comfortable recommending it. I just thought this option, being as it kind of popped up in the range that I was looking for, seems like a really good option to take a look at. So it is $1,269, nice, $95, so $1,270. So not a huge increase over the last one, but you are getting a lot more for your money with the extra RAM, with the extra storage. Again, a hard drive isn't expensive. A 2 terabyte hard drive isn't particularly expensive, but having it in there and not having to put it in yourself saves you time, saves you effort of having to do it. And if you're not comfortable building a PC, having it in there means that you just have that storage automatically built in. So another good option here, I think, for the US, if you're looking for the enthusiast level, if you're looking 1440p 60 fps. Onto our final level of PC spec, we're looking at the Ultra Spec. So this is 4K 60 fps Ultra preset with the upscaler set to quality. So this is looking for an RTX 4080 or an RX 7900 XTX. CPU wise, we're looking at the Intel Core i7-12700K or an AMD Ryzen 7 5800X3D. So those are the specs that we're looking for, that we're being recommended. These again will either exceed or equal them, which is what we're looking to do, so that you are able to run Star Wars Outlaws at the spec that it is saying these are the specs that you need. So again, back to the UK, we're starting with the CyberPower PC Lux gaming PC. This has the Intel Core i7-12700KF, the RTX 4080, 32 gig of RAM, terabyte SSD, etc. Does this tell me the RAM is DDR5? It does. The RAM is DDR5. We're matching the CPU it's asking for with the 12700. We've got the GPU that it's asking for with the RTX 4080. We have double the amount of RAM that we need with 32 gig, and it's DDR5, so it's nice and modern and up to date. You have a terabyte SSD for your storage. So good option here from CyberPower. This is £1,881.60. Odd price. A lot of them have either been dead on or 95, but this is 1,881.60 apparently. So I don't even know how to round that. 1,882. That's a strange price, but there we go. I think this is a good option. Again, a brand that I have heard of, will be reliable, will build you a good PC. So yeah, it's a first option for the UK. But now we will move on to the second option. So for the second option, we have the Vibox VII99 gaming PC. This has an i7-14700F, RTX 4080, 32 gig of RAM, 2 terabyte SSD. So we're moving up a little bit here. We're moving to a much more modern CPU with the 14th generation with the 14700F Intel i7. Again, we've got the 4080, but we've got the Super version. I don't believe it was the Super in the last one. Oh, it was the Super. Oh, my bad. I don't know whether I mentioned that. It was a 4080 Super on the last one. We're at 4080 Super again. So again, slightly like a slight smidge higher than we need with the 4080. Again, 32 gig of RAM with this one. But with this one, we're getting 2 terabyte NVMe SSD, so twice the storage of the last one. This is £2,011.95, so £2,012. It's a lot of money, but it's a lot of machine for your money. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a good old PC. This is going to run lots of games. Now we're on to the US PCs for the Ultra Spec that we are being given here for Star Wars Outlaws. We're looking at the Zotac Gaming MEK Hero. Has a Ryzen 7 7700X, the 4080 Super, 16 gig of DDR5, terabyte SSD. So this is $1,999.99. So this is $2,000. Again, a lot of money, but we are getting the tip top of PC here. We're getting the Ryzen 7 7700X, which is significantly more newer and recent than the CPU it's asking for. We're with the 4080 Super, which is slightly above the 4080 that we need, 16 gig of RAM, which is what we need. This is DDR5, so nice and modern, and a terabyte SSD, so plenty of storage here. And Zotac, again, a brand I've heard of, a brand that I'm happy to recommend because they are a well-known brand. And currently, it's on offer for 13% off. So if you're looking for this PC, then maybe now is the time to buy it while it's on a little bit of a discount. So that's option one for the US for the Ultra level. Now we'll move on to the second PC. We have the ABS Vortex X Aqua Gaming PC. i7 13700KF, 4080 Super, 32 gig of DDR5, and a terabyte NVMe SSD. So this one is $2,049.99, so $2,050, a slight bit more than the last one. We're getting the i7 13700KF, which is a little bit more than we need, a generation newer than the 12th gen that it's asking for. 4080 Super, again, slightly better than the 4080 it's asking for. We're getting twice the RAM compared to the last one with 32 gig, but again, we do only need 16, but 32 is nice to have. Got that extra RAM. And a terabyte NVMe SSD is that's the storage we need. We only need 65 gigs, so terabyte is more than enough. Again, I don't think this is a brand that has popped up previously for me, but having a look at it, having a look at some of their other PCs, their reviews and etc., this is a PC I'm happy to recommend. They seem to do very good. And again, the point of Amazon is just that it's easy for everyone. A lot of people have access to Amazon. It's a place that people feel comfortable buying from. It has a good return customer service policy, which is why I do these recommendations on Amazon. Those are all our recommendations here for PCs for Star Wars Outlaws. I'm looking forward to playing the game. I will be playing the game on release, which as of me recording this video is, I think I have access tomorrow. Keep an eye out on my channel, basically, if you want to catch me playing some Star Wars Outlaws. I hope this video has been useful to you guys. Like I said, if you do have any specific needs or a budget that you're working to and you want to run either this game or any other game, if you're looking for a VR PC, if you're looking for a different game that you want to run and you want to ask me what spec you should buy, I'm always happy to give you guys personal recommendations. Just drop me a comment or contact me via email or Twitter or however you can get in contact. Please do leave a comment if there's something specific you're looking for or a budget you're working towards. Thank you guys for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you did enjoy this video. And I will catch you guys next time. Bye!